We're here today to talk to you about the strategic plan for expansion of RSI. Today we're going to talk about your vision and the key success factors we've taken into account, the internal and external analysis that have guided our decisions, the available options to you, the analysis of these options, our recommendation, as well as our implementation plan to conclude. Your vision at RSI is to provide exceptional client-centered spa services in an atmosphere that is relaxing and in a manner that is environmentally friendly and sustainable. We have kept this vision in mind as we have gone through all of our analyses. Our key success factors are a convenient location for access for your customers, clean facilities, offering up-to-date and unique services that will keep you competitive, using only quality products, competitive pricing, as well as a good reputation to maintain your brand. Our decision criteria when we performed the analysis on your strategic options were, in order of importance, meets your vision and mission, of course this is the most important, as well as improving your brand recognition as you seek to grow. We also hope to meet your growth targets that you've set for us and meet also the constraints that you have, such as your bank covenants and the targets for your finances, as well as keep in mind the resources that you presently have available. I'm now going to pass it off to Grayson to talk about your analysis.
So liquidity is fairly poor actually. The current ratio is less than 1, the cash coverage ratio is less than 2. However, there is a strong AR turnover. Cash from operations is very strong. There's also a weak inventory turnover. About 50% of the assets are inventory, and it's taking about 180 days on average to sell inventory. Solvency is also poor. There's high debt levels. Debt to assets is roughly 70%. So this might make it difficult to acquire new debt in the future. Profitability is very strong. There's high profit margins, high return on assets, partly due to the cash from operations. There are a few constraints. The financial statements are not prepared in accordance with ASPE as of yet. In order to secure funding, such as the $15 million loan from the bank, it will require maximum debt to equity of 1:1, a maximum debt to assets of 1:2. If this $15 million loan is not acquired, a private loan option will provide limited funding, and so shareholders' investments could be required. Diving into the external analysis, we're going to look at PESTEL. PESTEL stands for political, economic, sociocultural, technological, environmental, and legislative. There's some minimum wage requirements that vary by province for the political. Economic trends, generally a stronger economy equals more discretionary spending, which also means increased spa visits by consumers. Some sociocultural trends, there's a trend towards emphasizing health benefits rather than spas being for pampering or luxury. There's also an increased proportion of male customers attending spas. Technological trends, it's easier for customers to find reviews, locations. It's easier for them to communicate and connect with spas in order to get what they're looking for. A couple environmental trends are it's moving towards more organic products and more environmentally sustainable practices. There's also some legislation, certification requirements in order to run a spa. I'm going to pass it off to Zach, who's going to go through the first two options.
So the first option available to RSI is to consolidate with Lavish under one brand identity for continued operations. This would continue with the vision that Danielle discussed earlier. In addition, that there is no real significant tax impacts as well as real upfront financial costs. So to start, we'll look at some advantages. The first advantage would be brand identity. You would be centered under one single brand identity, administration, and cohesive strategy. The next would be cost savings. By combining both operations under consolidation, it will result in savings in admin, accounting, information systems, and banking expenses. Finally, you'll have centralization. By having both companies under one head office, it will help centralize your decision-making process, therefore increasing the speed at which you can make decisions, which will help with further growth opportunities. However, there are some disadvantages to this option. The first is operational differences. So currently the Lavish manager is kind of against consolidation. By being against consolidation, it could lead to companies having differing opinions in operations, as well as staff being unable to perform the staff that the staff at the other company was doing. Secondly, you have different accounting policies. Under ASPE, when you consolidate, both companies must follow the same accounting policy, and this would need to be determined ahead of time. As discussed by Grayson earlier, having one ASPE policy would be beneficial for both firms anyway. Finally, there's different focuses. This can be seen as an advantage because by having different audiences and different customers you're going towards, you can hit more of the market. However, in decision-making processes, each company may have differing opinions on what would be considered most important. The second option is to franchise RSI. By franchising, you're developing a day spas modeled under the RSI operation strategy. Again, this still fits with Danielle's vision that she stated earlier. However, there are some significant financial impacts, especially in the upfront costs. To start with some advantages of this, you'll have rapid growth and expansion. By allowing individual firms to pop up under the RSI name, you'll be able to rapidly grow faster than you would just through normal growth. Secondly, you'll have your increased reputation. This is because you'll be able to be in more areas at the same time, therefore having more brand identity and more people knowing who RSI really is. Finally, you'll have improved operations. As companies will be operating on their own, they may find inefficiencies that the central office may not be able to find on their own, which should lead to improved operations across the whole division. Again, there are some disadvantages. Some disadvantages would be there's opposing values. So franchises may have different values which could damage RSI's reputation if they kind of go and work in different directions. There's a lot of upfront resources that would be required. RSI has never done a franchising like this before, and the amount of time and money that would have to be done upfront may be very taxing on the shareholders and the CEO. Finally, locations. RSI is extremely successful because of the location that they are currently in, and spa success has a lot to do with location. If you're franchising and growing rapidly, you may not be able to find the locations necessary to support this expansion. Like I said, there is a financial impact with this option, and to look at the break even, you'll need to have 8 franchises running to just break even on the franchising cost, 5 franchises just to cover ongoing costs, as well as an upfront cost of $315,000 just to cover the admin and upfront costs needed in the expansion. I'll now pass it on to Chris to talk about the next 2 options.
Thank you, Zach. So the third option that is presented to you is the partnership with FFL. So this partnership is to create MTCs, massage therapist centers, in the FFL facilities. So there are some advantages that we'd like to discuss with you with this proposal. So it allows you to expand your market and to reach more clients. It also helps you share the risks and the costs of this project with FFL. There are more therapist opportunities, so employees can now mentor and train other employees. The possibility for integration. So being specialized in this area, there's cost savings with expanding your operations. And this also adds diversity to RSI's operations. A tax benefit actually of this project is that you can, if the partnership does lose money during the year, you can take half of that and reduce your taxes payable. So there are some drawbacks to this proposal. So currently as it stands, there's no brand promotion worked into this agreement. So our recommendation would be to include a clause in the agreement that the RSI logo must be visible at these MTCs within FFL's locations. So this project is also significantly dependent on FFL's profitability. So to mitigate this, make sure that you get the audited financial statements of the partnership entity, MTC. Some additional expenses are unforeseeable, and that is always a risk with taking on a new project. So make sure thorough due diligence is taken when discussing and talking to FFL and getting evidence of performance. So we conducted a profitability analysis on year 1. So year 1, it's proposed that you will start 2 large centers and 2 small centers in FFL's facilities. So the large centers will make the red, orange, the red is the revenue, orange would be the expenses, and brown is the profit on each of that would be for 2 large centers and 2 small centers. We also did a profit analysis for all of the centers, meaning when all of the FFL centers are occupied by the MTCs, and that would mean 7 large centers altogether and 18 small centers, and like the other slide, revenue and expenses and profit are divided in that color. So I'm sure you're wondering about your initial investment to join this partnership or create this partnership. So we can see an initial cash investment of $38,663, but you will also need a finance investment of $27,000 to start this project up. There is a 4th option that we had. It was acquire pure substances, but as you can see through the decision criteria that Danielle discussed earlier, and it does not meet 3 out of the 5 criterias, and we feel that the cons would definitely outweigh the pros, and it would not be a good idea to go along with that project. So I'm going to pass it off to Pat, and he's going to discuss our recommendations.
Thank you, Chris. So as Chris just mentioned, acquiring the company there is not an option that we're going to take. However, we are going to look at the 3 other options that were on the table. So consolidation of RSI and lavish operations is one of our recommendations today. Basically, the big pros of this that Zach mentioned earlier is some joint support functions which will help with cost savings. So you can have things like accounting, payroll that can be joined together, making it more efficient for the business. Another thing is centralization with consolidation. It will really help with efficiency of decision making if this can be combined. Our next recommendation today is a partnership with FFL. From the analysis that was shown, it is highly profitable, and from other future expansion projects that are being looked at, this will help fund those. It can help with the goal of employee retention, as FFL has lots of other options for employees, lots of other positions, which will help keep employees satisfied with their employment there and give them additional opportunities. There's also increased exposure for the brand as we partner or as the company partners and grows. The next recommendation is for franchising. At this time, we do not recommend franchising. First, we recommend looking into the partnership and gaining experience from that. The experience will gain or will provide the knowledge for operating a franchise. And also, if the partnership does not go well, it'll be an indication that perhaps the company is not quite ready for growth, and there's some internal matters that need to be addressed first. Strong internal controls will be necessary as the company grows. Controls are needed to keep everything under control. Control with the CPA designation will also be needed, or we advise that anyhow, just again help with the internal controls and help with the smooth growth of the company. For implementation, we recommend consolidating immediately and also joining the partnership immediately. There's low cost to this. For the initial investment in partnership, it's less than $50,000. So with the low cost and the benefits that we just addressed and the forecast for income, it's advised that this is done. The franchise, we recommend delaying that for 1 year, seeing how the partnership goes, and then from there in the first year, add 4 franchises, and the second year, add another 4 in order to match the break-even expectations. For financing, currently we're not meeting the bank covenants, so that'll make a loan with the bank difficult, and the interest coverage ratio is below 10. So therefore, at this time, we're recommending looking into acquiring funding from Blair Cummings. This will help as we don't have to meet those covenants. The interest rate will be slightly higher, but it's also going to help for the shareholders in the future to draw dividends. Pro forma financial statements have a promising look at this time too to help with our implementation suggestions. So in conclusion, immediate changes are consolidation and partnership for cost savings and shares the risk. It helps with employee retention. Look to franchise in the future to capture a larger market share and increase the brand image. Thank you for your time, and if you have any questions, let us know.